When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, world. This is Join Up Dots, episode 105. And God, it's hot today. I am sweating like a pig. But that won't stop me because I've got somebody on the other end of the line who generally, I imagine, must sweat like a pig every single day because he's a fitness guru. Let me give you some information about him. Have you ever been in corporate land and wondered why you're feeling sluggish and overweight? It sounds like an info commercial there. Do you wonder why you're reaching for that sixth donut just because it's sitting 3 feet away from you? Then today's show is for you. Our guest today was in a similar position before taking the leap of faith. Working for Ernst and Young back in 2007, he realised that he wasn't happy with his body but lacked the time and energy to do something about it. And he was not alone. I'm looking down at myself now. It seemed that his work colleagues all wanted to have a fitness timetable that fitted around their lifestyles and would ask our guest for tips. And after hearing the same request for the millionth time, he realised something had to be done. He had to set out to create a program that would solve this problem in a big way. He had to follow his passions. He loved helping people, he loved writing, and is a health and fitness fanatic since the 4th grade. Bang! He slammed them all together and created the online company My Body Tutor. So let's bring onto the show to provide us with the perfect plans and of course to tone up our bodies and join up the dots, the one and only Adam Gilbert. How are you, Adam?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Are you a sweaty person, Adam, or are you one of these supremely fit people that can run forever and a day and not a bead on you?
No, fitness is definitely challenging. As we get older, it gets harder and harder. So, there's certain things that are easy and there's certain things that are definitely challenging.
So we were talking just before we pressed record, and congratulations, you've got a new son in the family. So does that sort of send out your plans, or do your plans fit around your son to stay on that fitness timetable?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question my little Zachary has been a huge challenge. It definitely makes, just going to the gym, it makes eating when you want to a lot more challenging. But I think one of the things I do is, I really try to build habits and behaviors. And, thankfully, they have been able to last the last 3 months. And, it's been a challenge, but we're working through it.
I think the fittest I've been was when I used to have one of those baby things that you hang around your neck and you just dangle the baby in there and off you go. And the pain at the bottom of your back after you've been walking for about half a mile was unbelievable. I remember literally having an out-of-body experience thinking, I can't deal with this pain. Just somebody take this baby. I don't care who you are. Take the baby and give me freedom again. Are you that kind of dad? Are you the kind of dad who will strap the baby to you and off you go? Or is it sort of in a pram and you're pushing it around?
We're kind of pushing him around. I will hold him. He's a big little boy. He's about 15 pounds now. So, after a while, definitely you feel it. But, we're usually he's in a stroller. So it's not as challenging as what you're describing.
Oh, come on, Adam. It is challenging. Or am I a bit of a wimp? Because I struggled. Big time.
I'm not carrying him as much. But when I do, after a while, it certainly is challenging. There's no question about it.
You've come round to my way. You see, you know that the host is always right. That's where,
of course,
you're leading to. You're a good man. I like the way that you think. So whereabouts is life for you? Obviously, you're an American. So where is home for you?
I live in Manhattan. So yeah, that is home for me.
Well, actually, in the city of Manhattan.
Yes. New York City.
Oh, right, okay. Normally people who are from New York always say to me, I'm in Queens, I'm in Brooklyn or something. I've never met somebody who actually lives there. So that's an expensive place to live, isn't it?
It is definitely expensive. There's no question about that. It's funny. I talk to some of my friends around the country, and it's always fun to check in and see how much money could buy elsewhere. But the thing is, my family lives, in Long Island. They live in Jersey. My friends are in New York, so to me it's worthwhile.
And have you always been a New Yorker?
Yes, I have.
What does it give you? I've been to New York numerous times, and it's a kind of it's very much like London in certain ways, but it's very different as well. There seems to be a slight craziness. It's a full speed ahead all the time. Sirens, which you don't sort of get in London. What does it give you as a family that really says, yeah, this is home?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing, New York gives us is just this energy, right? You walk outside of the door and you just feel this energy, right? Whereas, when you're in the more quiet suburbs, you just don't feel that. As far as what New York gives us, I think it just gives us options. We can step out of our door and there's a class for Zachary, or there's doctors are right there, or, our friends are, a few blocks away. So just to be the fact that we can just kind of go anywhere, very quickly, and everything is just so close by is a wonderful thing. And I love driving, but you don't need a car here. So it's nice to be able to just walk everywhere if you want. So
you're naturally keeping fit in sort of your lifestyle then?
Yeah, we're walking everywhere. I mean, we really are, unless, we're going out to the burbs or whatever. We are, getting a lot of steps in every day, so it's nice.
So let's take us back in time, because this is what Join Up Dots is all about, because you were somebody who, it sounded in the research that I did, that was a bit sluggish at a point in your life. And you was in corporate land, you was working for Ernst and Young, and it was the classic office environment that I was in for many, many years that seemed to have cakes on every table, because it was always somebody's birthday. And so there was always cake sitting there, and it's hard to resist a cake, isn't it? So was there a kind of sluggish version of you? If we dug around on the internet, could we find pictures that you've been trying to hide away, Adam, where you you really weren't happy with yourself and the moves were at their best?
Yeah, so, I think for me it was more about this feeling, right? So when I was in college, I had started businesses. I just had this feeling of passion, right? I knew I was alive when I did that. And I never felt that when I was walking to work or when I was at work for those 2 years. And I think, part of the reason why we eat is to cover up emotions, right? We suppress emotions. And I think, a part of me was just very unhappy. And, you look for sources of comfort. And food became an easy source of comfort. So, I don't think I ever let myself go too much, but I definitely, for me, I just didn't feel the way I have. I didn't feel as focused and on point. Physically, I was just making excuses. I was rationalizing, not going to the gym. I was rationalizing eating this. And of course, it was to just seek this pleasure, right? Because I felt so unhappy in my day-to-day life. And, after a while, I just realized, something had to be done. I was, I couldn't live like that anymore, and I needed to get that passion back inside me.
So what was it that gave you the passion? Creating your own businesses, being an entrepreneur, what actually stimulated you? Was it the creative process?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's really wonderful to be able to control your destiny, to really be in control. It was just, I don't know, I've always been interested in business. I've always been interested in just kind of creating things. And again, I just go back to college. Like, I remember, between classes and even during the summer, like, I stayed up there, and, for my business then, it was like helping local restaurants promote themselves. I just like went door to door over and over again, talking to these business owners, and I loved every second of it. Right. And like, I did this during school, after school, while most of my friends were, they were being college students. And don't get me wrong, I certainly had my fun as well, but this was truly fun to me. Right. Some of my friends played, video games. I would, go out and, try to, work on my business, and I loved it. So I just knew I needed that back in me. I didn't feel that the corporate America wasn't giving that to me.
This is a question I pose to many of our guests, but if you go back really in time to the young little Adam, were you somebody that was a hustler even those days? When you look back to sort of the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old, were you somebody that was going around washing people's cars and mowing lawns and being productive, the classic lemonade stand kid?
Yeah, I actually did have a lemonade stand. I was always shoveling driveways. I was always looking for ways to kind of help people and make some money doing it. There's no question about that. I think one of the most defining experiences for me was caddying, actually. I used to be a caddy for golf at a local country club, and I started doing that when I was like 14 years old. And most of the caddies there, were the sons of members, right? So the members belong there, and they just would get their sons in there. And, it was a very, lucrative summer job for, a kid. And I didn't have that. But, I convinced the starter to let me in. I showed up every single day at like 5:30. And this was like when I was like in high school. It was not easy on weekends and also during the summers. And, I think that just really, was just really started it all, besides the lemonade stands and the shoveling driveways and things like that. It just realized, if you work hard, and you show up every day and you help people, in that case, it was helping people play better golf and really kind of help them through their, psychology as they're playing golf, because golf is not an easy game. It started it all, I think.
It is fascinating because the tagline of the show is connecting our past to build our future. Mm-hmm. And to a man and a woman, and I discovered this, I didn't kind of expect to hit upon this theme, but literally to a man and a woman who are successful and finding their own path. When they look back to their younger self, they can pretty much go, yeah, I was kind of doing this kind of thing when I was younger, but for some reason I went off and got a job and I did the path that was kind of expected of me. But now they look back on it and they join up their dots. They can see that actually if they were entrepreneurial, they did have the hustle muscle. They did like to help people. It was all already there when they were kids. But for some reason or other, we just go down the path of what's expected, even if it's not our path. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like to your point, I think a good question would be like, what jobs, would you want your kids to do? Right. And, when I think back on the jobs I've done, I was a waiter, I was a caddy. I started a few things. I mean, I would love for my, my son to be a caddy. I'd love for him to be a waiter. I think those are very powerful experiences where you're just dealing with other people, you're serving other people. I would love for them to work even at like a McDonald's, because I think it would be very powerful to learn systems. McDonald's has, is the best in the world at creating systems, right? I mean, think about it. They have, young kids working in their stores and, they have created this empire. And I think that could just be very powerful as well, whether you want to be in business or not. Right. I think also, just being in sales. One of the jobs I had, oh my God, I hated this job. It didn't last very long, was selling knives. And, that was really, really hard to do. And I think the biggest lesson I learned from there was that I cannot sell anything unless I truly believe in it 100%. And, from then on, it was like I thought of myself as a terrible salesman. But yet when people talk to me, when I talk about my business and my service, people are like, oh, you're incredible. But it's truly just because I believe in what I do. I'm not one of those people that could sell, ice to Eskimos or something like that.
I think that's the truth as well. I've been in sales for years and years and years. And generally, when it was something that I actually believed in, and a lot of times it was things like insurance plans and bank accounts and things like that. It was very financial sales that I was doing. But there were certain times that we were told to just get your sales figures and don't care how you do it, just get your sales figures. And it was hard. You were just banging away at it and your heart wasn't in it. But yeah, absolutely. When it was something you actually thought, yeah, I'd buy this myself, I think this is worthwhile, then it flew off the shelves.
Exactly. And that's how I felt with my businesses. It's like, that was really hard for me because I'd come off, that sales job. It didn't, the knife selling job, it didn't last that long. But, I wasn't all that confident in myself. But then, when I had this idea for my business in college and I would just go to restaurant owners, it just the passion just radiated, and people all the time would thank me for my persistence. And the only reason why I was so persistent was because I truly believed in what I was offering. And, for me, I think anyone who has, trouble with sales or, is not one of those, sell ice to Eskimo type people, you have to believe in what you do. And if you believe in what you do, then truly the sky is the limit.
So what is it about Americans then and this lemonade stand thing? Because I now use it as a phrase, and the Americans I speak to go, oh, yeah, I used to run it. I've never seen an English person ever do a lemonade stand in my life. It just doesn't happen here. But so many of you set up these little stands and you sell lemonade. What is that all about?
I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that just kind of gets passed down. It's, one of those things that, it's like, oh, he must. I think it's just one of those kind of, I don't know, the stories that gets passed on, and just people kind of use that as an analogy, I guess, for, success later on. It's like, oh, he must have done that. I don't know. It's an interesting question.
I'm going to find out for you, Adam. And one day at sort of 5 o'clock in the morning when you're up with young Zachary, I'm going to email you. And
I look forward to that.
We're going to contact you. So you're back in Ernst and Young, back in 2007, you're feeling sluggy, and you suddenly had this realization that, hang on, I'm on the wrong path. Was it a realization, or was it just a gradual feeling of, hang on, I've got to be doing something?
Yeah, so it was definitely this gradual feeling. Like literally every single day I'd walk to work, I had the stomach ache, and I just was not engaged there. I did not like it. It just wasn't for me. And actually one day I was on a treadmill early in the morning before work, and I just felt so good. I just felt so alive. It sounds so cheesy, but I really did, and I wanted to help I wanted people to experience that. And I think that week actually, I told my mom, because my mom is definitely someone who's very important to me. I said, listen, I'm going to quit my job. I have this idea. I have to pursue it. I'm just going to regret it too much if I don't. Before you know it, I'm getting older and older. And I put in my 2 weeks. Everyone thought I was absolutely nuts. One of the things my mom always said was like, why can't you just appreciate what you have? You're in such a great position. People would kill to be in your job. And, while I appreciated that, it wasn't making me happy. And I think, ultimately, I think happiness is what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I put in my 2 weeks. That was in, January of 2007. And then I started MBT in February of 2007, the month afterward.
And how old were you then?
I was 31 now. What was that? 14. What is it? 25, 24.
So
24.
You were at prime time really to do this. I was 44 when I did mine, and to be honest, I think I left it too late. In many ways, I left it too late. You can argue that I built up experience to be able to have conversations on a daily basis and all that kind of stuff. But I think 25, that's the time, isn't it, when you really are going, yes, I'm going to make my mark, and this is the path I'm going to do.
I agree, because, as you get older and older, you just have more responsibilities, more, things, life, kids, spouses, etc. And it's never going to be easier than it is right now, no matter where you are. Even if you are 44, next year is only going to be more busy, right? So I just had this pressing need and this desire. I literally couldn't sleep at night. I just knew there was something in me that wasn't being realized. So I had to do it. Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to play a little speech here, and this really cements what you are talking about. It's not the Steve Jobs one. We're going to do that later. But this is from the classic Jim Carrey. So this really sort of says what you're saying.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
That says what you were saying, isn't it?
Yeah, when I've seen that clip, I absolutely loved it. That's one of my favorite clips of all time. I mean, I think it's so true. Yeah, it is what I'm saying. There's no question.
But how do you know that? How do you know that you're going to take that leap of faith, you're going to create a company, and it's going to work? Or maybe you don't, because I think that's one of the things that holds people back. It's the fear. It's the fear of the unknown. They're in employment, they're earning money, they're not liking it. It's not too bad. It's just boring. And they want to do something else. You did it. Did you have all the answers?
No, not at all. So I think this is a great question, right? So one of the things I always say, and my mom was a former English teacher. She was a fantastic English teacher. She's, inspired a lot of people, and she always used to encourage her students to go after their dreams, right? But she never would encourage me. She always would encourage me to stay in my job, right? Because ultimately, she wanted me to be comfortable and secure, right? And I totally get that. And I love my mom to death, and I know she loves me to death, but she wanted me to be comfortable and secure. But the only way to really go after what you want sometimes is to give up that comfort and that security. There's no way to get to that, third thing of maybe, living, an amazing life or living your dreams, right? And for some people, you can build it on the side. But for me, I just couldn't do it. I was just too miserable. And that fear just propelled me, right? So I quit my job and I had, no income. I mean, I had saved some money, from the past, etc. But my goal for that first month was to be able to pay my rent. I refused to move home. I wanted to live in New York City. And it just, to me, I think when you truly believe in what you do, success is almost inevitable. It truly is when you truly believe in it. I believed in it so much that I was willing to quit my job, right? So I think having that fear, having that drive is important, right? And, some of the things, a lot of the things I've been thinking about lately is, parenthood, right? And I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to give your kids comfort and security, of course. But, my mom never said, if you fail, I'm going to be here for you. Obviously thankfully I wouldn't be on the street, but she was always a great reminder of reality, which is paying bills, paying your rent, paying your cell phone, paying everything. I've always, been self-sufficient. And that was something that fear definitely drove me. There's no question about that. And I think that's why, for me, I had to just leave the job rather than trying to build it on the side.
I couldn't do that. I don't think I was brave enough. So I basically worked for 5 years building online income that would just pay my bills, just enough. So when I quit, I didn't have any extra additional cash except for paying the bills. And I'm still like that. I'm still like that now because I'm building this and I'm building it up and I'm trying to make it the right way and I'm trying to inspire people. But I can see it from both sides now. I can see the leap of faith, and because of the panic, you just work all hours to make sure that you hit your goals. And you write your goals down and you go, how am I going to achieve that? And you set off to work. I see that totally. But I was certainly from the place of, let's play safe. Let's play safe. I've got too much to lose here. I can't let it go any worse than it is, but I still got to play safe. What would you say to people out there who are really playing safe? Would you say to them, like I try to on a daily basis, look, what's the worst that's going to happen? The worst going to happen is that you have to get another job and you end up working in a garage or something to pay the bills. There's always jobs out there, isn't there? But the stagnation being there, building up these fears, these doubts, these inabilities to just take that last little risk is the dream killer. And it's only up to them to actually do something about it.
Absolutely. I think, one of my favorite shows is Shark Tank, right? And, you see these, heartbreaking stories of people mortgaging their houses and, mortgaging their lives and just, they're in a ton of debt to pursue their dream, right? I think that's absolutely irresponsible. For me, at that point in my life, I had no responsibilities besides myself, right? If it was now, then it would be a very different story. And I always advocate for people to start small and start on the side. Because, you can't do your best work. You can't be, you can't let your brilliance shine in whatever it is you're pursuing when you have to worry about putting food on the table, right? So, I always advise people to start on the side. But, if after a year or 2 years goes by and you're not doing anything, then it might be worth considering taking another step because sometimes comfort, as you said, is the killer, right? If you don't have that fear can be very motivating. But to your point, I mean, if I were in your shoes, I would have done the same exact thing. And most people should, because you cannot be your best self when you're worried about paying for food and paying your rent and paying things like that, the basics.
So other than having a passion for what you wanted to do, what super talent did you have that set you apart from anybody else? So the listeners listening to you and you're saying, yes, I left my job without any income coming in and I've created this online business, My Body Tutor, which is going great guns. What extra talent did you have that the listeners don't have?
I don't think I necessarily had a talent that I have a talent that no one has. I mean, I do know I'm willing to work extremely hard. I work so hard. I literally would sit in front of my computer all day long for 18 to 20 hours a day. I sat there for so long that I actually, after a week of doing this, my back hurt so much I wound up shifting a disc in my back. And it turns out I had to go to a physical therapist that it was from sitting too long because I wasn't getting up. I was just in front of my computer all day long. And that comes from again, I think just believing in what you have, I just felt the world truly needed what I was offering, and what I still do believe that, and what I currently offer. And just tactically, that's one of the reasons why we offer a money back guarantee, simply because I really believe in what we offer. And then as far as my own, personal, what I think separates us, I think I just really understand the psychology of weight loss really, really well. And that just comes from hearing it from my other clients who've tried, everything out there. And they always say, no one has ever explained it to me the way you have, or no one has ever been able to, get through to me like you have. So that, just is always nice to hear, because I can think I'm great, but, results ultimately is what is the real test.
So for the listeners, you're basically saying you knew your subject and you were willing to work twice as hard as you've ever done before.
Exactly, because I wanted to excel. I wanted to be the best in the world at what I was going to do. And, when I was an accountant, when I was working at Ernst and Young, I did not want to be the best in the world at that. And that's important. And, there's two schools of thought, right, David? Like, some people, are say, go passion, passion, passion. Others are just pick something and get good at it. And then the fun and then the passion will come. For me, I couldn't get good at something unless I really liked it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Doing this on a daily basis, I listen back to some of my early shows, and it's a kind of muted version of what I am now. And I've done 150 shows I've recorded now, and I'm still not where I want to be, and that is great. I think that's fantastic, but the progress is still there to have. And if you look at people like, the classic thing, the 10,000 hours, you look at the Beatles, and the Beatles went over to Germany before they were like properly the Beatles, and they were just an all right band, but they had to play 20 hours a day kind of things, just constantly playing, and it fine-tuned them to such a belief that when they came back, they were head and shoulders above everyone else. Bill Gates, if you look at how much time he put in, Steve Jobs, all these kind of uber successful people, it really comes down to having a passion, a talent, but working 3 times as hard as they've ever done before to really set you apart from everybody else. Because I think naturally humans are lazy and we like the easy life. Somebody was saying to me yesterday, they were saying to me, what are you doing? You're running a 7-day-a-week show. How many staff have you got? And I said, I haven't. It's just me. I do absolutely everything. And they went, well, how do you do that? I said, I just work 3 times as hard as I've ever done before until I can work 3 times as smart. And basically, once I get it to a certain point, then yes, certain things I will hand over to virtual assistants and stuff, But up to that point, you've got to put in the hours to hone your skills and build something and, once again, set you apart. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
I think it's as simple as that, but of course easier said than done. And, I like to say it's as simple as that and as complex as that. But I think, the hard part, for a lot of people is really figuring out what they truly love. And I think, the ultimate test for that is, what do you spend your free time doing? What do you just naturally gravitated towards? I was very lucky, or I am very lucky, that health and fitness has always been a passion of mine. And I was able to combine it in a way that could, make me a living, and make others a living too.
How have you combined that? Because we've touched on it, but how did it become a business? You're sitting there in the office, your work colleagues are saying, oh, God, I need to have a fitness timetable, and you started working things out for them. How did you transfer that into a business that's actually providing you an income and a steady income?
Yeah, well, I think, it was for those 2 years while I was there. Before then, I was always kind of known as a fitness person, right? It was just my passion. It was something that, I've been doing for a long time. And, I'd always give my partners, my colleagues, my clients advice, and then I'd see them a week or two later, depending on client engagements, and it was always the same story. It was like, I always loved the plan you made for me. And then it was, I got caught up with my kids. I got caught up with work. I got caught up with happy hour. I got caught up with, reality TV. Whatever it was. And I realized something, needed to be done. It wasn't that these people didn't know what to do. After all, I had given them a plan. It's just that they weren't sticking with it, right? And these people were very busy. They didn't have time to be, for in-person meetings or anything like that. And, really, 70 to 80% of weight loss and being fit is our diet, right? And, I had this idea to just create this plan, this program where people would check in every single day, right? Because it's one thing to, talk to a coach or talk to someone, be all pumped up, and then, it's like, all right, good luck, let's touch base in a few weeks or in a month. And to me, that's assuming that, compliance isn't the hard part. And compliance is the hard part. That's the whole thing. In 2014, a lack of knowledge isn't so much the problem. It's a lack of consistent action. So I set out to create this plan, this program, where people would, get coaching through the internet. And what really separates us is just the daily and personal accountability, right? So you connect with your coach, you have your initial phone consult. We make sure you know exactly what to do to reach your goal. But then what really separates us is, we're in communication with them every single day to make sure they're actually doing it day in and day out. And that's the key. That's the key to getting results. The key to getting results in fitness, in business, in life, as you know, as you're doing, you just said you recorded your 150th show, which is incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is consistency, right? Doing the right things over and over. And we make sure our clients are doing the right things. And when they have that inevitable roadblock, like we all do, we're right there with them, to help them, pick back up, whether it's, a tactical challenge or a mental roadblock, we're right there.
So how do you do this, though? For example, I'm somebody who is naturally slim, always been slim. And it was interesting when you were saying at the beginning that people who are unhappy will generally eat, because I'm the opposite. If I'm unhappy, I go without food, and I can go sort of days just picking at things. I just don't really have an appetite, so I sort of lose it. So naturally, I'm slim. But if I suddenly look down at myself, and I let you into a secret, it's so hot at the moment, I haven't got a shirt on, I'm sitting there. That's why we haven't got a webcam going, Adam. I wouldn't want to do that for you. But I look down at myself and I think to myself, right, I want to become muscly. I want to have a sort of buff body. Can I do that through you, or is it just about getting fit?
Absolutely, you can do that through us. We help people, reach all sorts of goals. Weight loss, increasing muscle mass. It all comes down to the right diet, the right exercise plan, and then ultimately doing those two things consistently.
So right? how would you get me, though? How do you email me, or you send a text to the phone, or what do you do?
Yeah, if you were, let's say you were to sign up as a client, right?
I'm not going to. I promise you.
So
I
would
hate
have
fitness.
You hate fitness. Well,
I do.
We're going to change that.
You're going to change my mind on that.
Here's the thing: when you are really fit and you feel really good, it allows you to do everything else better. And as we get older and older, I think looking good is nice, but when you feel good, it helps you do everything else better. It really does. It gives you increased, energy, clarity, productivity. So many other things. So if you were to sign up for a client, right, we'll have an initial phone consultation. We'll talk about your current diet, your current exercise habits. If you're exercising or not, that's totally fine. We'll create a game plan for you, right? So we'll talk about, here's what we want to eat, here's what we want to do for exercise. We'll make sure you feel comfortable with it, because if you're not comfortable with it, you'll never stick with it. I think one of the reasons why people can't stick with a diet is because the diet they're starting is not sustainable. They're doomed from the start. It has to be sustainable. So we'll make sure you feel comfortable with your plan. And then again, what separates us is that every night you'll log into our website. It's very, very easy to use. You'll tell us what you ate, what you did for exercise, if it was an exercise day. Then the following day, your very own tutor, in this case it would be me, will write back to you with critique, suggestions, encouragement, and then just truly day by day, daily feedback by daily feedback will make it happen. And, as you said, humans are inherently lazy. Human nature is always attracted to pleasure and is always avoiding pain, right? And it just becomes very easy to rationalize and justify our poor choices. And when you're accountable to someone, when you have a coach who has a vested interest in your success, who's an expert at what they do, it changes that, right? You can't just rationalize it yourself. You can't just do the old, if no one sees it, it doesn't count. Well, I'll just go to the gym tomorrow. Well, I'll just eat this, right? And it's not about never eating your favorite foods again, or working out 2 hours a day or anything like that. Again, that's not sustainable. But when you're accountable to someone, you have support and expert guidance, it makes all the difference.
The interesting thing about this, and I was flippant about sort of not wanting, fitness. I've never been in a gym in my life, I'll be honest.
Right.
And the thought of that would be horrendous. But a nice brisk walk with some music in my ears, I do that any day of the week, and and that's as good as many things, I suppose. But when you're talking about accountability leading to success, that is no different than the most successful businessman. It's no different from anyone out there. If you've got somebody that you've got to report into, you will do that. It's why They give you scorecards when you're at school. If they didn't do those kind of things and homework and you had to hand it in, of course you wouldn't do it. You would just sort of live your life. But by actually having to do that is a blueprint for success. And what I just want to sort of point out to the listeners out there, that if you have got an idea that, like Adam, it doesn't have to be like My Body Tutor or whatever, but if you can add accountability to it, you're starting to cook on gas, because then you're starting to buy into people's buy-in. And once people invest in that, you are starting to build a community. And once you've got a community, then that is possibly one of the most powerful online things you can do.
Well said. Absolutely.
So is your community flourishing? I imagine it is, because if you've got these people that are signing up to you, they're wanting your help, they're seeing the improvement, and they're reporting back to you saying, Adam, I've lost X amount of pounds and stuff. That's got to be a win-win, because they're then going to say to their colleagues, I'm doing this. Never worked before, but because I've got Adam on my side, I've lost this. Oh, I'll try that. And it starts to sort of build up. Would that be true?
Thankfully, yes, it is true. Results beget referrals, right? And, some people, are very private about their weight loss, and some people are very public, and they're just very excited because it's very exciting. It's awesome to look good. It's awesome to feel good, and they tell everyone they know, and it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, there's this natural, built-in word of mouth, because obviously you see someone every day, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you lost a lot of weight. What'd you do? Right? And that what'd you do question is a pretty natural question.
I have been in America many, many times, and to be honest, whenever we go out for a meal, I'm more likely to have a child's portion, and the child's portion is big enough for me. The plate sizes out there are absolutely enormous. And I've seen people sit there and they've had a starter like a main course, and then they've had a main course that was, if it's a rack of ribs, it's a rack of dinosaur, it's that big. And then they will end up with, pudding and whatever on there. It must be very difficult, because the American way of life is pretty much based around food. Even when you're watching telly, literally all the adverts are some kind of drink or food. It's constant stimulation, isn't it?
Yeah. First off, I love your accent. I could listen to you talk all day. It's so soothing. But yeah, it really bothers me a lot when people say, weight loss is about it. Just eat less and exercise more. Duh. Yeah, but if it was only, it's way easier said than done. And it's like,
I'll be honest, Adam. I say that a lot.
See, it's not about a lack of willpower, right? The environment that we're in is very, very hard to succeed in. And if you build systems, if you have a right plan in place, if you have the right support, the right accountability, and you understand, most importantly, the psychology and the mindset around weight loss, then you don't need willpower as much, right? As I like to always say, it's always easier to avoid the dragon than it is to slay it, right? And the easier we can make things in ourselves, whether it's eating well, exercising, business, anything, we don't, the better. We don't get extra points for using hero-like willpower. So we want to set ourselves up for success to start with.
So if this is all absolutely fascinating, because it seems like it's an idea. It's an idea that you've realised. It's based on your passions, but it's gone on to a level that perhaps at the very beginning you couldn't even perceive that you were going to get to, because that's the beauty of all these ideas. They start small, they start ugly, and then they progress into something that then starts gaining attention. As Steve Martin, the comedian, always says, be so good that they can't ignore you. And that's what you're starting to do here, or you're not starting, you're already doing it. You're building a platform that's getting worldwide notice because it is so good. And is it something that's totally different than what's out there, or are you just finding your own area of that sort of world, that fitness world, to actually make your mark?
Yeah, so first off, I love that Steve Martin quote. That's actually on my desk. It stares at me all day long. Be so good they can't ignore you.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, that.
Yeah. Another quote of mine that's on my desk is, all great fires start small, right? And, I think one of the challenges people make is they think they have to start the next Google, right? They have to start, the next $1 billion company. And I remember vividly talking to one of my buddies who's, a successful entrepreneur, and he was like, you have to worry about the time of your, worry about your time, break it down into minutes, hours, how much you charging for your time. It was all about the money. And for me, if I did that, I would have never started this business because I'm very generous with my time, and it wasn't about that. So advice for, people who are, aspiring entrepreneurs is start small. Take baby steps. You don't have to build the next school. That's not the goal. When I first started MBT, I actually started as a spring break company. The goal was to help college kids get ready for spring break, because where I went to school and where my friends went to school, it was a huge thing. Everyone would just, all of a sudden, the gyms would be packed, right? Because we would go away in spring break and everyone wanted to look good. And I would help my friends throughout the country get ready for spring break too. And that kind of, that idea kind of started even in college. But when I started this, it was for spring break. And then very quickly, my college clients started referring me to their brothers and sisters and their family members that were in corporate America. And that's when it really started to take off because, it was just a real service. It wasn't just, a spring break thing. And then, to answer your question about, what separates us, I think what separates us is a few things. First off, it's the daily and personal accountability. We're the first and only service that offers daily and personal accountability. And that's really, really important because, again, even your listeners right now, right, they can listen, they can be all pumped up, but what action are they going to take? And it's all about the consistent action. And it's very easy. Here's the thing. Motivation is very fleeting, right? People hopefully listen to this are getting motivated. They're getting inspired to take some action. But what happens in a week from now? What happens in 2 weeks? It's very easy to start all kinds of things, especially diets, but it's very hard to actually stick with them. So that daily and personal accountability makes all the difference. And then the missing component that a lot of diets out there, don't hit on is the psychology and the mindset. Right? A lot of people only focus on their food they're eating, right? So they'll just go from one food diet to the next. 1 month they're eating this, the next month they're eating that, the next month they're eating this. And the only thing they're changing is the food. But if you're not changing your mindset, your psychology, your relationship with food, the way you think and react to food, then you're never going to change for the long term. And that's a big part of what we do is helping people understand their psychology and change their relationship with food. That's the key.
Fascinating. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of what you're doing, and I'm thinking also about the TV program Man vs. Food, where they're actually programming them to eat these huge piles of God knows what just to see if you can get through it. And it's that psyche, it's that mindset, isn't it? And I suppose, once again, it's that same mindset, it's that same consistency, it's that same accountability that leads to success. What you're doing in your field, you're just providing the perfect blueprint to success for people to take into other areas. It's that ability to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you used to get up at 7 and do 2 hours work because you haven't got the time to do it at the end of the day, or work later on in the evening. And by starting small, the liberation of it all is you're not going to be noticed. As we said before, you can start, you can make mistakes. It's only when you get that momentum going that generally you would have fine-tuned enough that you're not looking like an idiot, that then people will start taking you seriously. But all the kind of mistakes you make are at the beginning. They're the bits that people are frightened of. They almost want the perfect product. It's never going to work because I haven't got this and I haven't got that, I haven't got that. Rubbish. You just kind of throw it together, and if it doesn't work, you move it around, you change it, because no one is looking. No one cares about Adam Gilbert the very first day that he sat there at his computer and thought, how the hell do I do this? Nobody cares. But now they care. Absolutely. Because you built it up.
Yeah, and I think, again, that stick-to-itiveness, if you want to call it, comes from really believing in what you do.
That's a good word. Say that again. I'm going to write that one down. I feel like you've just created a new word. What is it?
Stick-to-itiveness. I've heard this before, so I didn't make this up. I can't take credit for this fake word, but I do like it. Stick-to-itiveness, right? And, we understand what that means inherently. So the only way to have that is to truly believe in what you do. For me, at least. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I could only, the reason why I've been doing this 7+ years later, every single day in and day out, is because I believe so strongly in what I do. And I really believe what we offer. I know what we offer works. And I know, it's just the power of it.
Where can you take it though, Adam? You're building it at this point. Is it just scalable? Is that it? Does it stay almost the same, but you just get more and more community, more and more clients, or can you spin off into different areas?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So, I guess a better, going back a step, when I first started out, I was the only coach, right? So, now we're at about 20 coaches, and for me, money isn't the end goal, right? For me, it's truly helping people. Money is a byproduct of my success, okay? It's a byproduct of results for our clients. My goal has never been to build a $1 billion company. It's not it's not, because if it was, I'm doing it entirely wrong. For me, my goal is to love what I do every single day. And, I talk with some of my entrepreneurial friends, I truly feel blessed every single day, as cheesy as it might sound, to do what I do. Because I know how much I hated working in corporate America. I hated working at that company. I just didn't like it at all. And for me to be able to make a living and to impact people in a massive way, and the emails we get every single day, just the lives we're changing, it's unbelievable. And to me, that's the real reward. Money, success, being on wonderful programs like yours, that's all a wonderful byproduct, but it's not the goal. So here's an example, right? So as we're getting a lot more traction, we're getting more and more well known, the emails we get every week have increased, right? So now we're getting about 15 emails a week from companies that want us to promote their products, promote their pills, their magic quote unquote diet pills, their exercise contraptions, whatever ridiculous, thing they're selling. I can make thousands and thousands of dollars extra a month if I were to just start mentioning a few of them, right? But I've never once done that, because for me, trust is number one. And if it's not great for my clients, then it doesn't work. It's not, my goal isn't to build the next Weight Watchers. We can have a very wonderful business and a very wonderful community, with, several thousand clients. It's not to take over the world.
I'm going to play the speech of Steve Jobs now, because it is key to the actual show. But just before we play it, I want to ask, is there a part in your life that you would class as your big dot? And most people will look back at their big dot as some time in their life that was dark, or they were very unhappy, which made them change direction to where they are. Was it the Ernst and Young situation, or was there another one that you could look back on and go, yeah, I think that was when Adam Gilbert really said, I'm grabbing life?
I think the big dot, I love this question, was in college when I started my first business. I had the idea. This was between semesters. I had the idea for this website back then. I built it that night. It was terrible, but it worked. And I just remember the passion and just being able to stay up all night. I loved every second of it. And that was when the real, I would say, entrepreneur was born. I just knew that was inside me. And I always knew that if I found what I really loved, then the sky was the limit. But it took me years to really, I loved what I did in college, but I knew that I wasn't planning on doing that for the rest of my life. So those 2 years at Ernst and Young, before I found that what I really wanted to go after and pursue, because I just couldn't sleep anymore because I loved the idea so much, was very hard, because I knew that passion was in me, but I didn't know how I wanted to use it or where I'd pursue it with. It all started in college with that first business.
I remember doing this show, and it was episode 37. And I was recording episode 37, and I suddenly realized that I wasn't being the person that I had been previously. I was being totally myself. And it was when a switch flicked on, and I suddenly thought, hang on, this is easier than it was. I'm not actually having to think about what I'm saying. I'm having a conversation, and I'm feeling that it's a better show because of it. And leading up to it, it was very much me trying to find my feet and asking the right things and just basically struggling along. It doesn't sound too bad when you listen back, but I do remember 37 was the episode I suddenly thought, I think I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And it was about 10, 15 minutes in. And it ties up with that quite nicely, as you say. It's that path, it's those joining of the dots that Steve Jobs talks about, where you suddenly think, hang on, this is it. this is it. I've suddenly found it. I found that passion that they're talking about. For years and years and years, go out and find your passion. And you go, I don't know what my passion is. But then suddenly it hits you in the face and you think, oh my God, it was here all the time.
Right. And it sounds so cliche to keep saying find your passion, but, we both know, success is not easy. And it takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness. There's that word again. And the only way to do that is to really love what you do. So it's important, and I think, when you find that day, when you find that, dot, it's amazing. I like to say, the two greatest days of your life, right, are the day you're born and the day you find that why. And you figured that out in episode 37, right? And I figured that out, 7+ years ago, and I had this idea, and I haven't stopped working on it since.
Fascinating. Let's play Steve Jobs and let's get your feelings on this.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
You're a case in question on that, aren't you?
I love that. Like I said before, I think for me, the real reward is getting to do what I love doing every day, right? So like I write a blog, it's pretty popular, whatever. But there were many, many years where, I didn't have all that many readers, right? Now we have tens of thousands of readers. But here's the thing. If I didn't have any readers, I'd still be writing that. So for me, it was always loving what you do. That's the real reward. And when you love what you do, you can excel at it. You can become really, really good at it. You can hopefully become the best in the world at it. And with that, become success, right? So yeah, I love that Steve Jobs speech, and it's one of my favorites. It's actually bookmarked on my computer.
Well, when you're on your deathbed and you look back and you see what you've done in life, you will have left your mark in a positive way. Is it something as it stands at the moment that you would be still proud of, or is it always going to be work in progress?
As I tell my team, we're always, a work in progress. We always can get better. We always can improve. So I guess, I'm happy with the impact we've had, but we're not even scratching the surface of, the impact we can make. And, so yeah, it's a combination of both. It's important to, I'm definitely happy with where we are, but there's a lot of room for us to grow and improve as well.
Love that answer, because I think that is the killer, isn't it? And you see it a lot when people have a certain amount of success and go, yeah, job done. I can lay on the beach and I can go out with my 25-year-old girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. It's not a bad life, really, Adam, is it? But it's when you've still got that passion to just grow it again and go a little bit more and then improve and then be something a little bit more. I think that is when true success comes. It never arrives. It's always just around the corner.
Yeah. And, one of the things I often say to our team and my clients is, the number one reason why we stop being successful is because we stopped doing what made us successful in the first place. And, that's something that we take very seriously, because you don't want to rest on your laurels. Yes. Here the challenge is, right, that we all wrestle with is the very thing that, makes us, successful is also the very thing that makes us not appreciate what we have, right? And it's this fine line, because you have to stop and smell the roses, but you also have to keep looking ahead. And for me, one of my I guess it's just a core motivation is just to be the best that we can be and to really realize our full potential as a business. Right. And, I think we owe it to our clients. We owe it to ourselves to do that.
Very last question before we send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. One of the failings with entrepreneurs, and I've seen it in myself, is that you're constantly striving to improve. You're constantly striving to achieve goals. But as soon as you hit those goals, it's like, okay, done that, just move on. Do you allow yourself time to celebrate, or are you in that kind of rat race as well?
It's funny. I just wrote about this the other day, and it's something I really think about a lot. Because, if you told me 5 years ago I'd be where I am today, I'd be like, no way. So it's a question I still struggle with. I think it's, when is enough? How much more do you need? When are you satisfied? And I think that these are just, this is the human condition, right? And, I think the key thing is to just keep asking yourselves these questions. Ultimately, what makes you happy, right? I think a lot of the goals we have are ego-driven, but they're not necessarily, things that would make you truly happy. So one of the things I wrestle with is just not appreciating it and just continuing to improve and more and more and more, which I don't think is going to lead to satisfaction and fulfillment. And I see that already. I can feel that already. So it's, one of the best parts about Zachary, is that it makes me stop a little bit and just appreciate life and appreciate him and my wife and all that.
Love that. Love that. Right, let's play the theme tune and send you back on time. So this is the Sermon on the Mic. And if you did go back and you bumped into younger Adam Gilbert, what age kind of Adam would you choose? Would it be the 5-year-old lemonade stand guy? Would it be the one at college sitting up all the way through the night doing the websites? Or would it be the one sort of around about 2007 at Ernst and Young who's reaching out for that 9th donut of the morning? I'm going to play the theme tune, and when it fades off, you're up. And this is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
Adam, from January of 2008. I'm choosing this because working for Ernst and Young is what gave me the idea, what propelled me to really go after my passions. So I would say, listen, hell would be seeing what you could have accomplished if only you didn't take a risk. And there's no guarantees in life. If you follow your heart and follow your passion, then good things will happen. Things will work out. Focus on being fearless. Focus on discomfort. The more you can embrace discomfort, the more you can do things that are more challenging rather than the easy way out. And do that, the sooner you can do that, the better. Lead with your heart and be fearless. And good things will happen, and follow your passion, and things will take care of itself.
Adam, how can people connect with you?
You can find me. My website is mybodytutor.com. I actually prepared a bunch of cool bonuses for your listeners, health and fitness related, all good stuff. And they can find that at mybodytutor.com/joinupdots. So they could just sign up for that email, and I'll just send them some good emails, all quality stuff, I promise. They can find me on Twitter, and they could find me at My Body Tutor. That's where I am, and I have a blog there as well. So I hope to connect with some of your listeners.
I'm sure you will, because it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up those dots and connecting our past, it's the best way to build our futures. Adam Gilbert, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.